Hello everyone, my name is Hazal Özlen. I'm a master's student with Dr. Sylvia Villeneuve, and today I'll be talking about my master's project. Beta-Amyloid is one of the main pathological proteins in Alzheimer's disease, and increasing evidence suggests that subthreshold amyloid accumulation might be biologically relevant. Amyloid accumulation starts almost 2 decades before the onset of the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. And in our project, we sought to investigate the association between different levels of amyloid deposition and various AD markers in 2 cohorts of asymptomatic older adults. We included 529 cognitively unimpaired individuals, 129 from Prevent AD, and 400 from Agni open dataset. Both of the cohorts underwent amyloid and tau PET scans. They have been following up for several years and had multiple cognitive assessments and MRI scans. We used Gaussian mixture models to create region-specific thresholds of amyloid positivity in 7 regions identified previously by Villeneuve et al. Brain paper in 2015. These 7 regions were sensitive to early amyloid accumulation. Individuals who were amyloid positive in all regions were classified as widespread amyloid group. Those who were positive in 1 or more regions were included in the regional amyloid group, while the rest were considered amyloid negative. We compared the 3 groups on genetics, tau PET binding, subjective memory complaints, and cognitive performance. Linear mixed effect models also compared cognitive trajectories over up to 14 years of assessment. When we look at the sample demographics, we see that the widespread group is older compared to the amyloid negative group in both of the cohorts. There's no difference in education, and only in Agni we see a higher percentage of female in widespread group compared to the negative group. In both cohorts, regional amyloid group had a greater proportion of APOE4 carriers, and we see a higher subjective cognitive complaint in the widespread group compared to the negative group. When we look at the cognition in Prevent AD, we see that at the baseline visit, widespread group had lower cognitive scores in delayed memory compared to the amyloid negative group. But when we look at it over time, we see that there's a significant decline in widespread group compared to the regional and amyloid negative group. But we don't see any decline in the regional group, and the group stays stable over time. When we look at Agni, we see that at the baseline visit, memory score was significantly lower in widespread group compared to the amyloid negative group. And this significance stays over time. The assessment goes up to 14 years, and we see that the significance is there for all of the groups, but the decline was steeper for the widespread group. When we look at the longitudinal amyloid, the rate of accumulation of amyloid is significantly higher in regional and widespread group compared to the negative group. Negative group accumulates amyloid over time, but is not as much as a regional and widespread group. When we look at the tau PET binding, only in Prevent AD, we see that the regional group had higher tau bindings in the entorhinal cortex and middle temporal gyrus compared to the amyloid negative group. Widespread group in both cohorts has higher tau bindings in all of the early tau regions compared to both of the groups. To conclude, regional deposition of amyloid is associated with alterations in key AD markers, suggesting that increased risk of Alzheimer's disease. Such an intermediate stage might be important to consider in the future prevention trials. And lastly, I would like to thank you all my lab members and also my supervisor, and thank you all for listening.